You probably know someone planning to work until they turn 65 or maybe even 70. You might even be that person right now. People look at the rising cost of everyday life and think they need a massive pile of cash to ever stop working. According to the latest data from the Northwestern Mutual Planning and Progress study, the average American now estimates they actually need right around $1,460,000 to retire comfortably. The workplace plan participants surveyed by Schroders put their magic number closer to $1,200,000. Math tells a completely different story. Most folks overestimate their target by hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pure fear. When you don't know the exact number, you just guess high so you feel safe. It feels better to aim for a giant number than to face the uncertainty of stepping away from a steady paycheck. We're going to walk through 7 signs showing you can leave your job 10 or even 20 years sooner than you planned. The twist is that the last 3 signs have absolutely nothing to do with your bank account. Everyone loves tracking their net worth, but those life green lights matter just as much. Let's look at the first sign you're ready to clock out for good. You hand over a big chunk of your paycheck to the bank every single month just to keep your house. For almost everyone living in the US, that mortgage sits right at the top of the monthly budget. It feels like a heavy weight you carry year after year. Paying that off changes the math on your whole life. Your monthly survival cost drops like a rock the day that final home payment clears. Getting rid of that housing debt by the time you hit your 50s flips a mental switch. You stop working to keep a roof over your head. You start working just to fund the rest of your lifestyle. This shift does wonders for your daily stress levels. A paid-off house means you need way less cash to get by every month. If you're getting older and still staring down 15 years of heavy house payments, that naturally delays your exit. You just have to build that exact monthly bill into your long-term plan. Taking the house out of the equation is the quickest shortcut to buying back your time. We all know that one guy making crazy money who still somehow lives paycheck to paycheck. Imagine a neighborhood doctor pulling in $500,000 a year, but spending 95% of it on a giant house, 3 luxury cars, and expensive dinners every single weekend. He looks rich to everyone driving by. If he wanted to quit his job tomorrow and keep living that exact way, he'd need about $12 million sitting in the bank. Your income alone doesn't decide your freedom. The gap between what you earn and what you spend controls everything. That brings us to the second sign you can quit early. You clearly understand how your savings rate changes your finish line. Keeping your everyday lifestyle costs reasonable means you need a much smaller pile of money to replace your paycheck. You literally buy years of freedom just by deciding you don't need to upgrade your car every 3 years. Recognizing that connection puts you so far ahead of the pack, you stop chasing a bigger salary and start focusing on keeping more of what you already make. Saving just 5% of your paycheck keeps you stuck at your desk for 40 years. Pushing that savings rate up to 30% or even 50% totally breaks the normal timeline. The math works the exact same way for a public school teacher and a tech executive. Every dollar you refuse to spend today does 2 powerful things at once. It adds to your growing investment pile, and it permanently lowers the daily lifestyle you've got to fund later on. People get completely trapped thinking they need a lottery win or a massive inheritance to walk away early. You really just need a wide gap between your incoming cash and outgoing bills. A person making $70,000 saving half their money reaches the finish line much faster than someone making $200,000 saving barely anything. Seeing that truth stops the endless panic about picking the perfect winning stock. You take back control of your future by managing your own daily habits instead of crossing your fingers and hoping the stock market bails you out. The math rewards the saver over the high earner every single time. Relying on one boss for every single dollar you make feels incredibly fragile. Your whole financial life depends on a single company doing well and keeping you on the payroll. The third sign you're ready to walk away early is having cash coming from a few different places. You might rely heavily on your main job right now. Adding a steady rental property, a small weekend business, or regular stock dividends completely changes the game. You stop leaning so hard on that one traditional paycheck. Getting money from 3 different sources helps you sleep soundly at night when you finally hand in your company badge. Your rental income might pay your basic housing costs. A low-stress side project might easily cover all your groceries and gas for the month. Those quarterly stock dividends step in to handle unexpected hospital bills or sudden car repairs. You build a deep safety net out of these totally separate streams. When these small cash flows link together, you realize you don't need that 40-hour work week to survive anymore. People panic about leaving work because they picture their main income dropping to zero overnight. That deep fear keeps them locked in a cubicle way longer than necessary. You can test your true readiness with some quick middle school math. Just add up all the money you make outside of your primary job. If those side streams reliably cover 60% or even 80% of your current monthly bills, the finish line's practically staring you in the face. You're way closer to real freedom than you think. You also have to remember your official retirement accounts will eventually unlock when you hit the right age. Those traditional tax-advantaged funds just wait quietly in the background as your ultimate backup plan. Having this outside cash flow means you stop viewing early retirement as a terrifying cliff you've got to jump off. It becomes a slow, comfortable walk down the stairs. You transition out of the daily grind entirely on your own terms, without ever wondering how you'll buy dinner next week. Old money rules usually tell you to save up 25 times your yearly spending. That classic math lets you safely pull out 4% of your money every single year without going broke. We need to talk about the fourth sign showing you're actually ready to quit. You might only need 20 times your yearly expenses sitting in the bank right now if you plan to introduce dynamic spending rules or flexible income pipelines. That famous 4% retirement rule based on Bengen's historical market analysis really comes from a deeply cautious place. It was built to help people survive the absolute worst historical stock market crashes without ever running out of cash by calculating a fixed 25 times nest egg. Clinging to that ultra-safe math forces so many people to work 5 or 10 extra years for no good reason. They end up reaching the end of their lives with a massive pile of money sitting untouched in a bank vault. Money's just a simple tool to buy you a good life while you're still here. Stacking it up just to keep score completely misses the point of working in the first place. You genuinely want to enjoy the money you spent decades grinding to earn. Dying with a totally empty bank account sounds scary, but it means you actually squeezed every drop of life out of your savings. Most people pass away with somewhere between $46,200 and $250,000 left over in terminal wealth, depending on which exact estate data study you read. According to the latest Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances data, on average inheritances, the guy who originally invented that famous 4% rule, William Bengen, even changed his own mind recently. He did a public interview explaining his first batch of research only looked at two very basic things. He checked intermediate US Treasury bonds and large US stocks. That's a pretty limiting mix. Modern investors usually hold a much wider variety of assets to protect themselves from wild swings. You probably own smaller company stocks or hold cash in totally different ways today. Bengen noticed that adding small and micro-cap stocks changed his whole mathematical equation. As published in his latest insights, Bengen officially updated his baseline safe withdrawal rate to 4.7% because historical data proved money grew much faster with those asset classes included. Pulling out 4.7% instead of 4% naturally changes your entire life schedule. A slightly higher withdrawal rate means you need a much smaller pile of cash, closer to 21 times your expenses rather than a strict 25 times, to safely walk away from your desk. Hitting 20 times your yearly spending acts as a massive green light to rethink your whole future. You buy back those extra working years to spend with your family instead of sitting in meetings with your coworkers. We just covered the heavy financial math holding so many people back. The next 3 signs deal with the quiet, emotional side of leaving your career behind. These soft signs often pop up in your daily life without you even noticing them, which makes me wonder if you're already seeing these exact shifts happen in your own routine right now. Money gets you to the starting line, but your mental state actually pushes you across it. Fixing the math only solves half the problem. Let's look at the first non-financial clue that tells you it's time to pack up your desk. The 5th sign tells you to jump while your body can actually still handle the landing. You're in very good health right now, and you have things you desperately want to do outside of the office. Waiting too long to pull the trigger ruins the whole dream. People delay their exit into their late 70s, completely draining their physical energy in the process. By the time they finally stop working for good, They've got zero desire left to travel the world or tackle exciting new projects. They mostly just want to sit quietly in a comfortable chair at home. A healthy, capable body is a ticking clock. If your knees still work well enough to hike, and you have the daily energy to chase your kids around the yard, you need to use that golden window. Having total financial freedom means absolutely nothing if you spend it dealing with chronic pain. You want to fully exploit your good health while it naturally lasts. Getting out early lets you enjoy the physical strength you still have. You see it happen all the time when people finally walk away from their jobs. Someone unplugs their computer for the last time, and they have absolutely zero plan for what comes next. They sleep in for a month, catch up on some shows, and then a heavy boredom quickly takes over. Leaving a long career creates a massive gap in your daily identity. You suddenly feel completely lost without that forced morning routine and the regular office chatter. So many early retirees actually end up going right back to a desk job a few years later just to have somewhere to be. You have to figure out what you genuinely want to do with all your free time before you hand in that final notice. You want to run toward a new life, not just run away from an annoying boss. A guy I know thought he'd just play video games and mess around in his garden all day. That completely fell apart after about 3 weeks. You need a real reason to get out of bed when the alarm stops ringing. The real trick is finding an interest that connects you to other people. If you love playing golf, you don't just hit balls alone every single morning. You join a local amateur league or you volunteer to organize the weekend tournaments. Taking on a little bit of low-stakes responsibility keeps your mind incredibly sharp. It keeps your social life breathing and gives you a reason to leave the house. Your savings account buys you the free time, but you have to actively build the life that fits inside those empty hours. Your alarm goes off on a Monday morning, and your stomach instantly ties itself into a tight knot. You drag yourself out of bed, absolutely dreading the drive to the office. We all have rough days, but when a job sucks the actual life out of you week after week, that signals a massive turning point. The crazy thing is, how many people with fully funded retirement plans still tolerate this misery? They stay locked in jobs they completely hate purely out of deeply ingrained habit. They fear the unknown more than they hate their current desk. Once your bank accounts say you can safely leave, your tolerance for a soul-crushing environment should drop to absolute zero. You literally have the power to buy your way out of that stress. People constantly brush off the physical toll of grinding through a miserable career. They tell themselves they can tough it out for another 5 years just to hit a perfectly round number in their portfolio. Chronic work stress slowly wrecks your body from the inside out. You trade your healthy blood pressure and your mental peace for a few extra dollars you'll never actually spend. Dealing with sudden heart issues or deep anxiety later down the road gets incredibly expensive. You might easily hand over more cash in future medical bills than you ever earned by staying those extra years. Sticking around a toxic office just to pad your accounts makes zero sense when it ruins the very health you need to enjoy that money. You end up blowing big money just to numb the pain of a brutal work week. When you hate what you do, you start swiping your card to reward yourself for simply surviving until Friday. You book flashy weekend trips or suddenly decide you need an $80,000 golf simulator in the garage just to feel a quick hit of joy. That desperate reactive spending traps you in your job even longer. If you ever catch yourself buying expensive stuff just to tolerate your current boss, tell me how you broke that specific cycle down in the comments, because that trap catches almost everyone. You have to realize the job itself creates the exact financial leak keeping you stuck there. You look around your office one afternoon and realize you completely flatlined a long time ago. You already hit the exact title you aimed for 10 years back. You knocked out the massive projects, learned everything the team had to teach you, and built the skills you wanted. Now, you just show up every morning to collect a routine check. You stop growing entirely, and your day turns into an endless loop of repeating identical tasks. Coasting feels safe at first, but it quietly drains your inner drive. Staying in a role that asks absolutely nothing new of you means you just run out the clock on your own potential. You're trading your finite time for a game you already beat. Every hour you spend staring blankly at a spreadsheet is an hour you miss somewhere much better. You skip your kid's afternoon basketball game because you feel strangely guilty logging off at 3 p.m. You pass on a fun family road trip because you need to save your paid time off for a busy season that never actually ends. When you grind endlessly for a paycheck that won't even change your daily lifestyle, those sacrifices stop making any logical sense. You give away the most deeply irreplaceable moments of your life just to look busy for a manager who'd replace you in a heartbeat. You can't ever buy those missed Tuesday afternoons back, no matter how big your final portfolio gets. Pro football players usually dream of walking off the field right after hoisting the championship trophy. They desperately want to leave while they stand right on top, rather than waiting around until they get permanently benched. You can look at your own long career the exact same way. If you just pulled off a massive win at work and you feel genuinely proud of what you built, that sets up the perfect moment to pack your desk. Leaving on a high note leaves you with a lasting sense of deep pride. You walk out the front doors feeling like a total winner, rather than someone who just slowly faded into the background over 5 boring years. Most folks walking around your neighborhood genuinely believe they'll clock in every single day until they hit 70. They blindly accept that long timeline just because everyone else does it. Stepping off that endless treadmill early belongs to the few people who stop guessing and actually look hard at the math. Quitting early really just comes down to balancing what you earn, what you refuse to spend, and what actually lights you up inside. You absolutely don't need $20 million or some magical stock pick. You just need to organize your daily habits so your money actively buys back your freedom. The whole game shifts when you realize you hold the power to call it quits. You start seeing real freedom the moment you stop pushing the finish line further away. You realize you don't need to hoard cash just for the sake of having the biggest pile in the cemetery. Recognizing these subtle signs in your own routine completely flips a switch in your brain. You go from feeling permanently trapped by your monthly bills to seeing a brightly lit path to the exit door. If shifting how you look at the math behind your life makes sense to you, stick around, Kyle Invests. We'll keep exploring new ways to make your money buy back your time. Your actual life waits right on the other side of that final paycheck.